EV adoption is definitely slowing down in some states more than others. But before we get into that, let's check out what you guys are buying for your next vehicle. The future of internal combustion engine doesn't rely solely on lawmakers or politics. It actually relies a lot on the market. And if nobody is going to buy these automakers' electric vehicles, then the government won't let some of the world's biggest companies fail as a result. So I had 2,300 votes come in. 38% of you, or almost 40%, said, hey, my next car is just going to be a gas car. That's what I know. I know it's reliable. That's what I'm comfortable with. It works for my lifestyle. Over half of you, the majority of you, picked a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid is going to be your next car that still has an internal combustion engine. So between the two of you, 90% of people at least voting on this poll on my channel. I know it's a tiny volume compared to the whole subset of potential customers out there in the United States, but 90% saying they were going to have an internal combustion engine car as their next car. 10%, just 10% voting said their next vehicle is going to be a battery electric vehicle. So let's get into the news from Automotive News. And there's a lot of things to talk about today. If you're wondering where I'm at, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, to drive the all-new Hyundai Kona, which is going to have 3 different powertrains. You have a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, you have a turbocharged 4-cylinder, and you have a fully electric variant. I don't think we'll be getting the hybrid version, which I think is going to be available in certain markets. And let's kick things off starting with state-by-state EV adoption rates slowing divide. So this graph here is showing the green states. The green states are the top 10 states to have the highest uptake in EVs. Hawaii makes a lot of sense to me. What are you going to do? Drive off the island with your internal combustion engine? And you just don't need that much range. And if you can plug in with solar, that makes a lot of sense. Now, it's like essentially the West Coast and certain parts of the East Coast are taking account for the top 10 states for EV adoption. Now, the states with the least EV adoption are going to be the ones with typically wide open spaces or a complete lack of infrastructure for charging their vehicles. And look, I don't know why Nebraska's not in there, my home state, but there's a lot of people in and around the Omaha and Lincoln area that have a ton of money that probably are buying Rivians and Tesla Model S's and high-end Mercedes electric vehicles, etc. So I could see why that's going on there. But yeah, North Dakota, South Dakota, etc., the uptake is not going to be pretty big there for electric vehicles. And look at Michigan. It is Motor Town, Motor USA. They're not selling a lot of electric vehicles. Isn't that ironic when a lot of these, Ford, Chevy especially, are pushing electric vehicles, and the state that they operate out of is adopting EVs and way at the bottom. I find that fascinating. Now, a lot of these green states that we see on this map also have EV incentives. Now, we all know about the EV tax credit, the $7,500 that you either get because it's built here in North America, has the right materials, has the right battery components. Actually, if you lease an electric car, oftentimes it's way cheaper than leasing a gasoline car due to the $7,500 federal tax credit that is loophole baked into that setup. So if you guys were getting an additional $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to lease or buy an EV and you live in these green states, why wouldn't you? It's free money. And if you get those incentives, oftentimes it's cheaper than a non-electric vehicle. Now, in these purple states, EV adoption has dropped over 20% compared to last year. And this is the theory I have. Well, a lot of you guys share the same opinion, is that there are a lot of early adopters for any technology. EVs is definitely a technology, a battery electric vehicle. And so you have these early adopters that are buying in. They already have their electric vehicle in the either last year or the year before. And so those early adopters are gone. Now these automakers have to dig in and try to sell their EVs to traditional internal combustion engine customers. And that is going to take a Herculean effort, absolutely, to change the minds of people who are used to gasoline. But the states that are actually in the top 10 of EV adoption, it's only grown 1% this year. So the EV adoption rate has grinded to a halt across the nation, whether you're in one of these green states or purple states. It's not looking good for traditional automakers. Tesla, even them, right? All their price cuts are a result of demand dropping off. You might be saying, Kirk, EV share is going up. It is going up, but the demand is slowing. So EV share has grown to 8.6% nationwide in June compared to 5.7% a year earlier. So that's pretty big. 3% more of the market share as a battery electric vehicle. That's considerable. Now, JD Power is expecting battery electric vehicles to take up 70% of the retail share by 2035. Now, who has a crystal ball? I don't know what's going to happen next year, let alone 12 years from now. So let me know down below, by 2035, do you think 70% of Americans will be grabbing electric vehicles? There's three things that I feel like need to happen in order for 70% of the retail volume for cars to be battery electric by 2035. They got to get cheaper, they got to have insane range, and also they need to have better infrastructure, charging infrastructure. So if those three things all hit, then 70% I think happens. If charging availability goes up, if range goes up, but affordability is still down, then it's not going to happen. So all three of those things need to hit in order for us to get to 70% across the nation, in my opinion. EV share in California, which is the highest leading uptaker in battery electric vehicles, they're expected to hit 94% in 2035. Let me know if you're in California, if you would be one of those 6% to grab a car with an internal combustion engine, whether it's a hybrid or not. North Dakota has the lowest EV adoption, and they're expected to just have 19% of their total volume be battery electric by 2035. Do you think the country will be closer to North Dakota's 19% uptake or California's 94% uptake of battery electric vehicles by 2035? We can't mention EVs without at least thinking about China. China's leading the charge when it comes to new battery electric vehicles, the price wars that are going on out there. And we're going to talk about what's going on with their factories and their workers, which is not good. We're also going to talk about how some people here in the West think the traditional automakers are going to be threatened by these Chinese automakers. The headline alone is saying BYD has a 15% cost advantage over Tesla's Chinese-made Model 3 and more than a 30% cost advantage over Volkswagen's ID3. Those are massive, massive percentage gains by BYD, which they are available in the Japanese market, and they're launching their new Dolphin vehicle in the Japanese market. So they have two. They have the Anno 3 and the Dolphin. I'm heading to Japan in October. So if BYD is at the Japanese mobility show or the Tokyo Mobility Show, whatever, it's the main auto show, always trips me up because they've just changed the name. If they're there, I will cover those models. I'll see what I can do to get in and out of those vehicles to see what their build quality is like, if I'm impressed with the materials, etc. With BYD's help, they're saying Chinese automakers will almost double their share of the auto market to 33% by the end of the decade. That's the global market. That's not just the Chinese market. They're going to be the majority of the Chinese market. Well, they already are, because you have to have a joint venture with the Chinese company. Unless you're Tesla, you have to have a joint venture with the Chinese company to even sell cars and manufacture cars over in China. And while that forecast might spell doom and gloom for traditional automakers, you got to pump the brakes, because over at Reuters, China's automakers bear the brunt of price war as fallout widens. So I'm not going to get into all the details here, but essentially what's happening is that they're cutting wages of these Chinese auto workers. Legally, they can't cut wages. It's illegal to do that in China. So what they're doing is cutting the hours that they can work, not cutting their hourly wages. They're also cutting out their bonuses. And they're also, because it's been so hot over there and it's been so expensive to run air conditioning, they're running all these shifts at night with no AC. So now you're working in the heat in the middle of the night and making less money. And so a lot of these workers are jumping ship to greener pastures, but they're finding the conditions to not be better anywhere else. So just because the cost of Chinese cars are low and they will still be low for the foreseeable future, doesn't mean that it is sustainable. I have a lot of concerns about the sustainability of the Chinese market and the health of their economy as well. So one of the workers said that, he's like, why should I even work for an automaker when they're treating me like this? I'm just going to quit and be a security guard at an apartment building or something. So crazy stuff going on in China. The economy is definitely something all of us should be keeping our eyes peeled on over there, because it will affect the rest of the world. Absolutely. But I'm going to shut down there. Make sure to stay tuned for my driving impressions. I believe it goes live on the 12th, September 12th. For the redesigned Kona, this thing is going to be a very, very popular car from them. The current Kona is just a little small, and now the new Kona is going to be fixing that. It's bigger, more legroom, etc. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you made this far in the video, I appreciate you. Smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss up all the upcoming industry auto news and driving impressions as well. I got an Integra Type S waiting for me when I get home, so you want to make sure you stay tuned for that. So thank you guys. Have a great one, and peace.